Welcome back. Michael Byler is the author of Bamboozled Believers, a magnificent exegesis of Scripture, successfully arguing for the full preterist position. A while back, I received his permission to use his material in my presentations, so I give him credit for what follows. Since most futurists expect the Great Tribulation, the rapture, and the sound of trumpets to be associated with the future coming of the Lord, I will deal with texts that refer to those subjects. There are texts that seem to support the futurist fallacy, so in this chapter I will try to show that their best proof texts deal with events that actually happened almost 2,000 years ago. We will start with Jesus Olivet Discourse, where he predicts a time of great tribulation. Matthew 24:15-21, quote, "When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day, for then there will be great tribulation, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, and never will be." Is this tribulation yet to come, or do these verses refer to the events that transpired 2,000 years ago? Well, the word "then" in verse 20 is an expression of time or time indicator, which in the verse shows that the passage is referring to a great tribulation that would happen soon after the abomination of desolation, which Daniel had predicted. In previous videos, we learned that the abomination of desolation mentioned here happened in AD 66, so Daniel and Jesus were predicting great tribulation at the same time. Certainly, the Jewish people experienced profound tribulation as Jewish armies fought each other and then the Romans between AD 66 and 70, because these were the days of vengeance when God poured out his wrath on apostate Israel. Now, since the Olivet Discourse is Jesus' answer to his disciples' questions about his coming to destroy the temple and the end of the Old Covenant age, we know that in verse 21 he was referring to a great tribulation that would take place before the destruction of the temple. Also, Jesus refers to this tribulation and to his coming in verses 29 and 30, and I'll quote, "Immediately after the distress of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from the sky, and the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Then will there appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then all the peoples of the earth will mourn when they see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with a loud trumpet call, and they will gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other." Now, in a previous video entitled, "What is a Coming of God in the Old Testament?" I explained the apocalyptic figurative nature of the language of the decreation of the sun, moon, and stars. This language was used to describe the destruction of an enemy nation by God the Father using the military might of a superior nation. For example, in Isaiah 13, the Father judged Babylon using the army of the Medes. I'll put a link to the video in the description, so please take opportunity to watch it. Then he says, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all these things take place." So we see that the tribulation that Jesus predicted in his Olivet Discourse happened before his coming 2,000 years ago. Futurists who refuse to accept Jesus' words have convinced themselves that Jesus intentionally deceived his disciples, something along the lines that Jesus wanted every generation to believe his return was imminent to them, so Christians would always be on their toes. How sad. They argue that Jesus led his disciples to believe that he was discussing a first century coming, when actually he was describing an event that would not happen for thousands of years. To maintain their delusion, futurists have to ignore two enormous facts. First, the Jews had suffered terrible tribulation by AD 70, and second, Jesus clearly said this generation will not pass away till all these things take place. Now, I'll end here for now. Bamboozled Believers can be purchased on Amazon. Kindle version is available. Please post your comments. I'd be interested to hear. Augustus out.